Hello, everybody. So, one of the first questions that I get asked by a lot of new bros is, where do I start? Or how do I make money? Or how do I, get going in this game to a point where, I can be competent and not have to worry about constantly dying? So, I decided that I would start a new series on the creation of a new character and starting through the new player experience, and then take you through some of the early steps that I went through when I got started in playing in EVE Online. There are some general things that I'm going to cover with you. You're probably going to see me do some things or recommend some things that maybe if you're an experienced player you may disagree with, then feel free to comment in the comment section below. But these are going to be general high level recommendations to all new players, and that stand as recommendations that I would give to anybody who's just getting started in the game, and have given to people who've come to me and asked for help or mentorship. And mentorship is one of those things that I'm happy to give of my own time. I'm happy to talk to you about your skill plans and talk to you about where you should go in the game and work with you on continuing to grow, even if you're not able to join Iron Armada, or if you decide to go in another direction. I'm happy to be there as a resource for you and as a friend. So, that people like me, I think, are plenty in EVE Online. I think the community has an incredible number of people who are out there to provide that level of help if you know how to look and how to ask for help. So to get started here, we're just going to go through the process of creating a new character. I've already thought up a name in my head for the character that I want to have. But I'm going to run you through the steps of deciding, which race do we go with. So to get started, the Kaldari are a very militaristic society. They're very, structured, hierarchical. If you think about the ideals of feudal Japan or 1980s business Japan, and the, industrial drive of modern Germany, and the innovation and extreme patriotism of the United States, and you rolled all three of those into a big mushy ball and then hammered it for 1,000 years or 20, you would get the Kaldari. The Galente are often dismissively called the Space French. They are the beacon of liberty and democracy, and they're extremely individualistic. But they're also one of the most innovative nations. They've got extremely advanced biotechnologies and drone technologies. Their ship shield designs are pretty fantastic as well. Although their ships can favor either armor or shield. They tend to be excellent explorers. They're scientists and libertarians at heart. Then there's the Minmatar. And if you combine a seething horde of angry Vikings with all of the traditional first peoples of Earth, shook them up in a extremely inhospitable area of space and let them cook themselves for 20,000 years, you'd get the Minmatar, an extremely diverse group of 7 great tribes of people who, are just as happy to populate planets as they are to wander the stars in great itinerant fleets. They have been slaves. They have been conquistadors and conquesting, adventurers, and they are the most numerous people in New Eden. And then there's the Amar. And the Amar are what you get if you take the Vatican, give it a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of weapons, and you let it, run rampant in the 1700s sort of gold, glory, and God expansion over the universe. They are a empire of dominion. They are iron-fisted, and they tend to do things like take slaves and murder people for, blood sacrifices and stuff. Now, the blood sacrifice side of things is more the Sani Sebek, also known as the Blood Raiders, but they are a fringe faction of the Amar faith. So, somewhere in the doctrines of the Amar faith, the Amar are kind of fucked up. They're kind of a messed up group. And while they are one of the oldest of the 4 nations, 4 factions who have come out in terms of their records and their ecclesiastical bookkeeping and stuff, the Amar, they like order, they like symmetry, they like beauty, And much like their faith, they like weapons systems and ships that are a lot like a big cudgel that hit hard and leave no doubt as to their strength. For the character that I want to create, I mean, really, if you're engaging with the lore of the game, if you're engaging with the meta of the game, it's up to you. I mean, if it really all that changes when you choose one of these factions is where you start in space, your starting ship skills and access to ships and weapon systems, and also what your character looks like. Now, for me, I could just as easily go Minmatar or Amar, Caldari, or Galente, but I think I'm going to start with this character being Galente. And you do have the option to flip between the different ships. I mean, a big part of choosing a starting race is that it in large part decides your shape of your ships, your ship design. It shapes the engagement you have with the game when you're first getting started. So your starting ship, your Corvette that you'll begin with in these races, is indicated for you in this ship layout scheme. So, you know, for the Galente, it's the Velator. I kind of like the Galente ships. I'm definitely a huge Amar fanboy, but I kind of like the look of the Galente ships because in a big way they kind of remind me of a lot of the color scheme and design aesthetics of like World War II bombers. So for this particular character, for his namesake, and for sort of the ideals that the Galente represent, I think this is a good choice for me to undertake. So we're just going to confirm that. And then I have to choose a subrace and gender of the Galente to go with. So there's the Intaki. They are ethnically sort of, they kind of look like Spanish or Mediterranean. They're descended very much from peoples who would be near Earth's old equator, but with strong influences from the Japanese in background. Then there's the real Galenteans. You kind of think about these guys as like space Scandinavians. And then there's the Jinmei, obviously drawn from Chinese descent. They're the latest addition to the Federation. Took the stars comparatively late, but they are they're a group that very much used to follow kind of a caste system. For the layout and for the name of the character that I'm going to have and everything else, I'm gonna go with a male Galente, and then we can customize the experience and the appearance of this character that I will have in the game. So to begin with, you can sort of randomize the shape, the complexion, the appearance of the character. Just by hitting these little rotate buttons will randomize the selection. So you can go through a few different options. And as you go through, it builds a history out so that you can go back and forth through your history. And while it can be fun to kind of explore what kind of like facial, craniofacial morphism you get here, I'm actually going to go into the manual selection here and set this a little bit myself manually. So he's going to be extremely light-skinned. He's not going to be very aged. Loads of freckles and maybe a little bit of scarring. Good. And eyes, we are definitely going a little bit bigger. And we're going to go green. And maybe a little bit darker. No, let's definitely keep it green. There we go. For hair, I'm going to do something I don't often do with my characters, and that's going to be give this character a lot of hair. I'm not normally one to give my characters a lot of hair, but mostly because I'm bald in real life, and it's just going to make me jealous. But I think for this character, it's a good fit. He's going to be a Gingy. Let's give him a little bit more red to his hair. Maybe that's a little bit bright. And we're going to give him a full beard. Can we make that beard longer? Apparently not. What the hell is this, CCP? Come on, man. Maybe a little bit lighter. You know what? I might even say, let's go a little lighter in his hair. Go. Yeah, that looks right. Okay, good. Now, check out the skin details. I'm pretty much okay with most of this. Cheek color maybe needs to be a little bit ruddier. There we go. Lip tone can be a little bit redder. There we go. And clothes. All right, let's do this. So now we've got a pretty good starting character here. We're going to give him a nice outfit. Let's start with something brown. And too much. Go for something simple here. Actually, I like this one. Feet. And one of the nice things with the feet is that you can choose whether the boots are tucked in or not with the pants. I think in his case, we want to go just a little bit different. There we go. And outer layer, we're going to give him a nice open jacket. Something like this maybe. Too much. That's not too bad. Okay, I'll stick with this. And then we can get into body modifications. So this would be things like scars, tattoos, augmentations. Typically you have to buy augmentations and other vanity items through the store with Plex, or you can buy them on the market sometimes. I'm going to give him some facial tattoos just because I think it kind of suits the character that we're creating. Yeah, give him just one in a woad blue. And piercings, we're going to give him eyebrow piercing on just the right hand side. There we go. All right. Any scars? Let's see if we can. No, I don't like the whole clear eye thing. Let's just give him a little lip scar here. There we go. Now from here we can choose the background and the pose that we want to use and the lighting to make our character portrait. And this is where you really have the ability. Now, if you wanted to change, if we go back, if you wanted to change the build of his face, you can, shrink and grow his nose. You can choose different parts of his facial features and raise and blow out the cheekbone structure. In this case, I think that's good. I'm going to give him just a little bit of a wider jaw, but not much. There we go. And you can also turn and shape his head, change the angle, change where he's looking. There, get that. And raise his eyes just a little bit. Make it look like he's looking right at you. And I'm going to want to change his pose a little bit. There we go. And let's find a background here that's suitable for him. Something in Golente space. Too dark. That looks good. And then take a picture. Okay, I like that. I'm going to stick with just the one picture for now, and then I'm going to continue. So one of the first things you have to do is you have to name your character. So I've chosen a Welsh name, Gwynfor Gorbeith, which means literally Great White Hope, which I thought was hilarious. So check availability for the name. It's available. Now we have to choose the ancestry and the education. So where is this character from? What kind of background is he from? And where did he get his education? And this is in a way going to affect a little bit of your starting skills, but not hugely. It's mostly a storyline thing. So is he an activist? Is he a miner or an immigrant? I'm going to say, being that he's Welsh, he's from a mining background. Not actually Welsh, because the Welsh don't exist. People don't remember Earth. It was 20,000 years ago that we left the Sol system. So, this is well in the far future. But let's just go with the Welsh theme. I kind of like this. So I'm going to say he's a miner, and that he went to the Center for Advanced Studies. Now, one of the things to know is that the Center for Advanced Studies is one of the few NPC corps in game. NPC corps are corporations that you start in automatically. It's kind of a holding corporation until you find another group to join. But unlike other corporations, the Center for Advanced Studies is one of the few corporations, NPC corporations, where the players are incredibly well organized, where there are mentors available, where there are teachers, where there are and a lot of the corporate chat, the chat windows that you start with for the Center Advanced Studies are actually one of the better ones in the game to begin in. But I don't expect that anybody should ever stay with their starting NPC corporation for any amount of time, because there's just too much you can explore and do in other corporations where you have the opportunity to really get into this game and engage with other parts of the gameplay if you join another corporation. So I'm happy with these results. He's gone to Center for Advanced Studies. He's a miner, and we're going to continue.
Calling any convoy Zephyr 10 hotel survivors. Come in, all survivors. Showing a surviving trainer corvette. What's your status? Recruit. Wake up and respond. This is a mess. Recruit. What do you remember? Did you even see the drifter ambush that warped into your location and decimated the convoy? I guess you panicked. Remember that? Well, recruit, I am Fleet Commander Terrell, Federal Intelligence Office. From now on, I am your commanding officer, and together, we have to figure out what happened here. I'm going to lift your training restrictions and grant you access to your ship's onboard AI. Say hi to Aura. She'll help you get your bearings.
Greetings, Captain. I am Aura. I will assist you in commanding your vessel and navigating New Eden. My core logic library has been proven to increase the odds of survival by several orders of magnitude, but I am only capable of advising you. You must make decisions for yourself. Simulations have proven that situational awareness is key to survival. I will now demonstrate how to become aware and alert.
Okay, so this is the new player experience. And
Captain, if you close my comms window for any reason, you will be able to recall it through the operations info.
yeah, shut up, Bora. So
To all.
this is the new player experience, and when you first get into the game, this is the first sort of instanced content that you get, is a sort of orientation to the game. Now, when you first begin the game, you're not going to have anything organized in a way that makes sense. You're going to have 3 basic tabs. The game system has pulled up some overview settings and stuff that I already had cached. So you can see that I have several tabs here with several colors already predefined. But you're going to want an overview setting pack in order to set these settings up for you. And this is what we call the overview. So the overview, in plain language, is the window of what are the things that are in space with you and how can you interact with them. And down here at the bottom left, we have a chat window. And this chat window is divided into a couple of tabs, local and corporate. Local is all of the people who are in the system with me that I'm currently in. So in this case, I'm in the starting system of Sys2Vert. Sys2Vert is a newbro starting system for the Galente. And if I wanted to divide these windows into separate windows, I can actually click and drag this window out. And now I have 2 chat windows. I have the local window, and then I have my corporate chat window. Now, the corporate chat window, like I said, for the Center for Advanced Studies, is an extremely helpful channel. It's actually, in many cases, I would say a better channel to join than some of the newbro help channels. But as a new player, you have access to other channels. And to recombine these two, I just click and drag again. Now, typically you want to have local up front for most of the stuff that you're going to do on a day-to-day basis. To engage with people, you can see that there's a few different colored icons here. And these colored icons represent people who are in the same corporation as me. So if it's green with a white star, they're corporation members. If it was purple with a white star, it would mean that I was in a fleet with that person. If it's blue and a white star, it means that it's somebody who's friendly to my corporation or to my alliance or to myself. And I'll show you later how to adjust standings with people. And then everybody else here is what we call a neut or a neutral, somebody with whom we do not have standings. So they're just people who exist in this system with us at the same time. Now they may be members of other starting corporations, they may be other new bros, or they may be people who are just coming in, going through. The security status of the system that we're in right now is a 1.0 system. Security status indicates how quickly the space police respond if somebody does something criminal. And if you're in HiSec, a lot of people assume, HiSec being everything from 1.0 to 0.5, going down in security, assume that HiSec is safe space. But unlike being in an extremely small town and knowing everybody around you, being in HiSec's a little bit like being in New York City. You don't know who's a good person or a bad person around you. You can pretty much operate with the assumption that most people are good people. But EVE is a game predicated on PvP. And PvP happens in HiSec too. It just means that when somebody does something, the space police are going to come and blow up their ship. That doesn't mean that they don't have a chance to blow up your ship before that happens. That's called ganking. So how do you orient yourself so that you're safe and able to operate in HiSec in a way that is educated and aware? Well, there's some basic orientation that you need to do. And that's what the new player experience is built around, is teaching you how to fly your ship, how it works, and what it looks like. Now, I'm going to give you a really quick orientation around the layout of the setup here, the HUD. What I'm going to do first is just reorganize my windows a little bit. So in the overview window, what you have here is icons for the types of celestials that you're looking at. So what are the things that you can see on your long-range scanners? I can see that there's a station within 4.8 AU. And this AU measurement is a measurement of how far away things are in spatial distances. And 1 AU is the distance, linear distance, from the Earth to our sun. It's a pretty long distance. So For me to go 4.8 AU from here to that station is going to put me somewhere in the range of 5 times the distance from our Earth to our sun. It's a fairly short warp speed to get there. It's about a couple of seconds for me to warp from our current location to there, but I can't actually warp away until I complete the new player experience or I cancel out of it. The other items that you see here are columns for what is the radial velocity, or how fast is something orbiting you, or are you orbiting something relative to your location, so something that's up close. Angular velocity is how fast are they going relative to you in terms of at a radius to you. There's absolute velocity, which isn't shown right now, and then there's corporation and alliance. So if I was looking at another ship, I could rearrange these columns or hide these columns by going into the overview settings to decide what I want to see. Now, for the immediate use, I don't necessarily need to see radial and angular velocity until I get a little bit better at showing you guys gunnery and such. So I'm just going to shrink this down to just the columns I immediately want to see, which is what is it I'm looking at, how far away is it, what is it called, and what type of structure or thing is it. The tag column isn't used much until you start flying in fleets, and that's where other players can put a tag on something to say this thing is a target, this thing is something you need to warp to, this thing is something that you need to travel to and then jump through. So it's an instruction set. But right now, here we are in our little tiny Corvette ship. This is the Velator. Bridges here. And some ships have multiple bridges, by the way. Yeah, if you wanted a size for scale, the Velator in size that it is now is about the size of a 3-story office building. It's quite large. It takes up about a city block or half a city block. And the guns on this thing, you have to imagine, are quite large. They're the size of artillery guns. So as you want to move the camera view around your ship, and the camera will always start centered on your ship, you just click and drag in space, and that will allow you to rotate your camera around. And one of the very first things Aura wants you to do is learn to orient by looking around. And by changing this objective angle or zooming in and zooming out by using your scroll wheel, you can get a better view at space. So I can see where am I? Well, I'm in the middle of a spaceship graveyard from a space battle that's gone down. And I can see there's this big scintillating sphere of energy around me. Well, to begin with, that big scintillating sphere is what we call a warp interdiction field, meaning that I can't warp out of here until I make that field go away. And that's one of the first missions Aura will give you in the new player experience. So we can look around, we can see that there's a bunch of collidable structures like this freighter wreck. There's a warp disruption generator, which is very likely the thing that's creating this field. There's a Galente research facility right nearby, which I'm assuming has some scientists in it that I need to rescue. And looking around, you get a pretty good view for what's the shape of things that have happened here. And as you were told by the voice when you first started the new player experience, you managed to survive a titanic space battle in your tiny little Velator here. Now, to begin with, we have a couple of guns. This is a civilian Gatling gun, and this is a little mining laser. And then we have an afterburner that'll help us go a little bit faster. So our base speed, if I was to accelerate all the way up to max speed, would be 350 meters a second, basically. If I turn the afterburner on, I can get it up to just under 550. So it's going to give us about a 40 to 60% increase in speed. But flying spaceships in EVE is not like flying spaceships in like TIE Fighter. It's not a joystick and free flying movement experience. While you do have the option to use the cockpit view, so here we are looking from the cockpit view and we can see straight ahead. We've got sort of the pitch and angle and yaw indicator for the cockpit view. This is not how you pilot in space in EVE. What it is a bunch of math that determines, based on where you are in space, how does your ship move. So you're more or less, imagine being a captain on the Enterprise and telling the ensign to head to a particular direction. Set a course for, bearing 226 Mark 7, full ahead, for example. Well, if you zoom out here, you can see that I have shown my tactical overlay. If I turn it off, I don't see it. I just see the little wreck of space around me. If I turn it back on, I get this handy little, compass directional or cardinal direction compass that drops out over me. And if I zoom out, I can see how far away things are relative to my ship. And this is in kilometers. So I can see 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 75, and 100 kilometers away. And if I was going to, follow that same example, well, if straight ahead is 0 or 360 degrees, well, 226 would be all the way over here. And I would just zoom my camera in, point in that direction, and then double click in space to start moving that way. And my ship will automatically reorient and start flying in that direction. Now you've got a speed control here, and you can go to full speed or go to complete stop by pressing this minus or this plus.
Is this a joke? My records are saying you haven't even graduated from flight school yet. Okay, looks like you're all I've got to work with. Fine, but I need you to get moving. My sensor feed is indicating additional life signals near your location. Your convoy was transporting a critically important research team. If the information they have were to be retrieved by their drifters, it would be a security disaster for the Federation. You need to survey the convoy wreckage for potential survivors.
Captain, I have...
Okay, so I'm going to skip Aura's discussion here in their description because honestly it just takes too long. I mean, if you want to listen your way through it, fantastic. The storyline is great. But for the purposes of instructing you as new bros, it doesn't help me. So you can see here it's that Galente research facility that I just piloted away from. If I want to go back towards it, all I have to do is find it in space. And I can select it. If I want to add it over here to my list of things that I can see, if I right click and say add large collidable object to overview, it's going to fill up my overview with all of these things that I can potentially run into. And we can see that the Galente research facility is one of those things. Now, what I'm going to do is I can right click on it and say I want to orbit it at a certain distance, or I can press and hold my left mouse button and I can choose an orbit distance just by holding down and dragging away from the center until I set an orbit distance I'm comfortable with. Now, because I really want to just approach this thing, I'm not necessarily going to want to orbit it. I'm actually going to press and hold and choose approach. And then my ship is automatically going to set an intercept course for that object, and then it's going to let me stop right next to it. And now I don't actually need to see all these other large collidables, so I'm just going to remove them. But this overview allows me to choose what it is that I'm seeing in space. So here I am, I'm close to the research facility. Now I have a few different options for how I can interact with it. I can press and hold and see if I can target it. If there was other context options like being able to open it to see the contents or something of that nature, then I could very easily do that as well. Now, I've been given some objectives by Aura, so I'm just going to run through those really quickly. Things like looking at a target in space. Now, if I wanted to lock a target, if I wanted to lock this down as a target, I would hold Control and click on it, or I would choose my target reticle, lock target, and I would click on something. Now, the last thing I clicked on in space was this collidable object over here. So I'm going to want to unlock that by pressing and holding and then letting go. So same thing here. If I want to lock a target, I can lock it, and my ship will start the very long process of trying to lock that down as a target that I can fire on. Some things will target very, very quickly. Some will take a very, very long time to target. The reason this thing is taking such just an incredible long time to target, it's almost 100 seconds or a minute and a half, is that this is not something that you're meant to shoot at. So it's basically saying stop that. So I'm just going to do look at, which is to right click and say look at. which will let me zoom in on the thing that I looked at, and then I can kind of orient or orbit around it in the same way that I would look around my own ship. And holding Alt and clicking on something else lets me jump around the battlefield, so I can look over here and orbit around this. And I can see all the different shipwrecks that I've run into. And here's another battleship wreck. But over here, I can see that I have a slightly different object in my view. I have a wrecked Galente Dominic's battleship. So I'm going to right click on this and say add spawn container to overview. So now Aura is telling me to approach the wreckage. So now I can see this wreckage. Now I want to navigate towards it. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to say approach.
Next, right click on... To transfer everything from their cargo hold to your own, move your mouse pointer over the wreckage and hold down the left mouse button. A radial menu will appear. Select Open Cargo to view the contents, and then press the Loot All button.
So when I want to open something, I have to be within 2,500 meters of it. And when you open the cargo, we can see here we have a survivor. So to drag this survivor into our hold, we can either click Loot All, or we can drag the person directly to our hold. So now in our hold we have one person.
Window using the X in the corner. It's best practice to close with.
And now we're going to repeat the process.
Signals that indicate the next survivor is located in the highlighted wreckage. To transfer the next survivor to your ship, you should repeat the same steps as before.
Now if I turn on my afterburner, it's going to give me a big boost in speed, but I'm only going to turn it on for one cycle. So I'm going to click it once to turn it on, green, and then click it again so it cycles red, so it turns off at the end of the cycle. So it's just a little burst to get me there faster.
Excellent.
And now I'm going to do the same thing for the third wreck. I'm going to navigate over to it and rescue the third survivor.
Transfer the last survivors to your...
Captain, I am Professor Tannen from the Sisters of Eve research team. Thank you for saving my life. The attack was complete carnage. Thousands were killed. Our research on drifter strikes indicates they will likely return to this location to retrieve any survivors. And not for good. I believe the drifters want those survivors for invasive information extraction. It's very invasive. Such information is classified and of great value to the Empire, but since my survival depends on you, I am entrusting you with this.
Recruit? Honestly, I thought you'd be so much cooling scrap and gas by now. Yet here you are with our top research scientist in your ship. I'll let you in on a little secret. The scientists you just recovered may have information about the source of this incursion. This means it's now a top priority to get you and your vessel home safely. The only problem is, the drifters will be looking to rip anything.
Excellent. You are in the optimal position. I suggest you fire your primary weapon.
So here I am orbiting this generator, which is giving me the instructions to destroy. So when you're first looking at this, what you're typically going to see is a slightly bigger view of your overview here. And you will typically see any empty slots that your ship is using, but what I typically do is I hide those empty passive modules and empty slots. So passive modules are things you don't have to turn on, and empty slots hides those extra bubbles so I don't have to see them. Now I can move these things around so that if I don't want to have them in my immediate view, I can move them to another place, and these places move them to different keys. So for example, if I move my mining laser to F4, then I have to press F4 to turn it on or off, or click on it on screen. Same thing for Alt F4 or Control F4. So these are the key bindings that affect those different slots. But for here, I've already held Control and clicked. I've locked up this target, and now I'm just going to start shooting it. Now you'll notice if you mouse over your weapon has a finite range. It only is able to shoot within an optimal range of 5.5 kilometers, 5.2 kilometers, or to reach out past that with less efficiency to a distance of just under 8 kilometers. Now, if your target, if the thing you're shooting at gets farther than that fall off distance away, your gun stops being effective against them. So being able to use your overview to keep track of how far away things are is going to be very important. So here I have a new target. This is a drifter ship. It's a Circadian Seeker. I want to make sure that I have enemies like this added in my overview. So now I can see them on my overview. I've set this to orbit this ship, and I'm going to begin shooting them. So I've targeted them, I've locked them up, and now I'm going to begin shooting them. And because I'm within 2 kilometers of this ship, I'm going to be able to hurt it. So my guns are going to begin firing. Now, if I was moving too quickly, my guns wouldn't be able to track the target I'm shooting at. And if I was moving too slowly, they'd be able to hit me with greater ease. So right now, a lot of my ability to orbit this ship and apply damage to it comes from the fact that I'm a small, fast-moving ship with fast-turning guns. And I can see here that the ship has dropped a wreck. It's left behind some loot. It's basically dropped some wreckage that I can go back and then I can inspect to see if there's anything of value to be collected. And now I have another ship to attack. So another Circadian Seeker has warped in, and I've selected them here. I've chosen to orbit them. I can also do the same thing just by choosing orbit, and I can choose the orbit distance that I want to orbit at. So I'm going to say I want to orbit really close, 500 meters. I'm going to burst my afterburner to get right in there on top of them, and then I'm going to start shooting them. So now that they're within my range of 8,000 meters, 8 kilometers, I should be able to start hitting them, and there we go. Now, if I have to fly straight at him, it increases his chances of being able to hit me because I'm flying in a straight line and all he has to do is shoot my direction. But by orbiting him, I reduce the efficiency of his guns in trying to hit me. And because I am faster than he is, I want to make sure I maintain that radial velocity around him. Now, Aura has asked me to stop my ship, so I'm going to do it.
You've removed one irritation. Good.
And now I have to go in and attack this other guy.
The drifters deployed a second warp disruption generator. They must be really excited to keep you around. So you're going to have to... Oh, wait a second. We're out of time. Recruit. Looks like you're about to get your opportunity to fight for the Federation. The drifters use Seekers as scouts and raiders, and one just warped in. You need to take it out. Aura, fire up the combat routines. Our recruit needs your help. We can't afford to lose the trainee now.
Captain, I need you to remain calm. You are flying a corvette fitted with a civilian-class weapon system and a civilian afterburner for rapid maneuvering. This gives you a significant chance of success when pitted against a single seeker. Just like with the generator, locate the Circadian Seeker on your overview and select Approach from the radial menu.
Now, Aura tells you to approach. I just orbit. Part of what you can see happening here is that my shields are passively regenerating. They're healing on their own because I've stopped taking damage.
Captain, I need you to remain calm. You are flying a corvette fitted... Captain...
Now, the problem with this is that if you don't do these in the right order, it kind of breaks the new player experience, but at this point, I don't really care. So now I have to find the other generator, which is creating this warp bubble, this warp field. And then I have to blow it up. If you ever find yourself in the need to do so, you can always reset to your last checkpoint, which will allow you to automatically continue at the last point you were on.
Warp drive active.
And all it does basically is it regenerates the instance in a different location in space and warps you to it. So if you ever get stuck, don't worry, there is a way out.
While engaging, the optimal flight path is to orbit your target. This enables you to move while firing, making it difficult. Excellent! You are in the optimal position. I suggest you fire your primary weapon. You should now stop your ship.
You've removed one irritation. Good. There's a problem, though. The drifters deployed a second warp disruption generator. They must be really excited to keep you around. So you're going to have to... Oh, wait a second. We're out of time. Recruit. Looks like you're about...
To lock your weapon system on the Seeker, hold down your left mouse button on it and select Lock Target from the radial menu. Please orbit and engage the Circadian Seeker now. Now it's time to engage your weapons, Captain. Don't forget to stop your ship.
Well done, Recruit. Your first kill. And you were flying solo. This kind of combat experience is essential for defending the liberties of the Federation. Alright, on to the backup warp What? Wait, seems the drifters are determined to get a hold of you, Recruit. Another one of their seekers is warped in.
It's time to engage. Fire your weapons. When you have defeated the Seeker, you should stop your ship. Well done. That was tough. However, a third Seeker has appeared, and my scans indicate that this enemy will be even harder to overcome than the last. Approach the Seeker. Now destroy the Seeker. This will be a challenge due to the damage limitations of your current weaponry. If you manage to survive this battle and escape, we will teach you how to upgrade your ship's weaponry, so you can do more damage to enemies in the future.
Now, one of the things that a lot of people complain about with EVE Online is that you don't often fly your ship zoomed in like this. Often when you're dealing with EVE Online, you're in space battles, you're zoomed out at distances like this, and you're mostly using your overview to orient on what's happening in space, which is why in a lot of the really, really big fleet battles that you see recorded or pictures of in the news, everybody just looks like big colored blobs of little dots in space that you're focused on while you're trying to navigate. It's not often that you're zoomed in like this, having this sort of player versus everything experience, or the PvE experience, player versus environment. It's typical in combat to not stay the zoomed in because it can be very chaotic, and it can make it hard for you to keep track of what's going on, especially if you're trying to kill somebody in a solo battle. All the time that you spend orienting your camera and changing the view to make it look pretty is time that should otherwise be spent watching your health levels, watching the damage that you're dealing to your target, and keeping track of, how effective are you being? Are there any other strategies you should be employing in order to come out of that battle safely? Things that you can control are things like the orbit or keep at distances for the ships that you're fighting.
Good work, Captain. You can explore the Seeker wrecks to see if they left anything behind. Move your mouse over the wreckage and hold down the left mouse button. A radial menu will appear. Select Open Cargo to view the contents, and then click the Loot All button. Remember to get close.
How did he like that taste of freedom? I appreciate your determination, recruit, so I'm sure you'll handle what I'm about to tell you. We've been shadowing a squadron of drifter battleships, and they've changed course for your location. It doesn't matter how much of a natural you are with that railgun, you can't take on a normal battleship in a corvette, let alone drifter tech battleships. They will crush you and cast your vote into a black hole. Destroy the secondary warp disruption generator immediately. Let's hope no more seekers turn up. You have a narrowing window.
Captain, locate the backup generator in your overview and approach it. To reach the generator faster,
Now you'll see that
you should activate the highlighted
to
afterburner
see it in
module.
my overview, I
That
actually
is
had to
what will
add
enable you to
large
train your
collidable
ship's
object to
capacity
overview in
power
order to
speed,
see it.
allowing you to reach the generator faster. When you are close to the generator, you should lock target.
So here we can see that my maximum targeting distance is 24 kilometers, and I'm still 28 kilometers away, so I can't actually lock this as a target until I'm a little bit closer. And you can see that my guns have an effective range which is very
After locking
clearly
target
plotted
the
on the tactical
generator,
overlay.
you should orbit.
That tactical overlay is extremely helpful
Activate.
for the fact that it allows me to see when something in my space is within the effective range of my weapons. So if something falls outside of one of these two red circles, I'm not able to do it any damage. Now that this thing has entered my optimal firing range, when I shoot, I'm able to apply my full damage.
Recruit, listen carefully, because you've run out of time here. A drifter battleship squadron has warped to your location. By destroying the generator, you've removed the warp disruption field that shrouded the site. Taking on this drifter force will be a pointless waste of your life and freedom, not to mention those survivors, which Federal intelligence needs to debrief. Report to headquarters with your vessel and precious cargo now.
There are the drifter battleship fleet, so I'm going to see that I can.
Captain, your ship
There's
is
my
fitted with
location.
warp drive, which is
There's where I
capable
want
of
to
bending
go.
Space and time in order
So this is the station I want to go to, and I want to warp to 0.
warp drive
So I just
active.
right click and choose warp. Or I can press and hold and then choose warp 2. Your ship won't actually go to warp until it reaches 3/4 of its total velocity, as long as it's aligned in the right direction. Your ship will align faster if you don't have a propulsion module turned on. And here I have arrived at the Center for Advanced Studies School. This is my main base of operations when you first start the game, is this character type with this background. And in order to dock, I just select and hold on the structure and choose
Docking
dock.
permission requested. Docking request accepted.
Welcome to the Galente Federation Academy. Plenty of elite capsuleers began their journey here, going on to expand Federation influence across New Eden. Now, to our current situation. It turns out the Sisters of Eve research team had zeroed in on the whereabouts of the drifters. And get this, it is some sort of massive hive. We are urgently requesting more information from Professor Tanner, but this result has attracted attention in high places. Due to your efforts, the Senate's Drifter Emergency Commission has authorized the Federation Navy to mobilize for a counterattack. This was made possible by your actions today. As a gesture of our appreciation, the Galente Federation has awarded you with a bonus in ISK. The money will be useful in your promising career, but it's not all. I've spoken on your behalf with Navy Command, and I've been given special authority to accelerate your capsuleer training, because I want you to be a part of the counterattack.
Captain, bonus payments are quite unusual for a recruit of your status. I have also been notified that you have been given special permission to accelerate your capsuleer training. This is quite an honor. I must warn you, though, capsuleer training is the hardest, most complicated training process known to man. Only a fraction of pilots endure it. An accelerated process is going to be very challenging. However, so far you have been performing well. I am now providing you with a new module and skill book to officially start your training. You should now retrieve the new module and skill book from your...
So first thing I'm going to say is, here's some free items. Go ahead and open them up and start using them. This is the inside of the station, and you can see as you look around that there are billboards running advertisements for different corporations which are currently recruiting. You may even find the Iron Armada recruitment advertisement run on these screens while you're in a station. Different systems and different stations look different. They're all based around one of the four main racial designs, Galente, Amar, Kaldarian, and Mintar. And this is the basic docking ring that you'll experience for most of your ships. As you can see, when you look at the Neocom here, you've got a number of starting icons in sort of your quick menu bar. There's your inventory for your ship. If you want to move those items out of your inventory to the item hanger in the station, those items now become part of the inventory for that station, and they stay at that station, and if you ever want to go back and get them, you have to go to that station to get them. Your ship hanger is where any ships that you place will be. You also have the ability to see your peoples and places, which will show you any bookmarks, any contacts, any locations that you may have saved, or any agents that you may be waiting to talk to. There's also in-game mail, ship fitting, which is where you look at your ship and change the modules that are loaded to it. You can also change the skins. So if you have a skin for the ship that you're piloting, or if you've purchased one, you can apply it so that it basically changes the appearance of the ship. Just a color coding. Basically, these are vanity items. You also have the ability to check out the regional market. Regional market is things that you can buy in either the station you're in or in the region of space you're in. So if I wanted to limit it to just items that are available in the station I'm in, I would change the region filters to station. Then there's also the agency window. The agency window is where you'll find things that you can do when you're first getting started. So in the overall map of all of space, and there's something like 7,000 systems, you can see where you are now, and you can see the location of other missions and things that you can do. So there are industry career paths, business career paths, military career paths, exploration, mining, resource war sites. Resource war sites are like mining plus some PvP or PvE action that'll go on. And these are often timed sites. And running these different activities, running these different missions, it's kind of like playing World of Warcraft, running up to a guy who's got a little exclamation mark above his head, because somebody has got a quest for you. This is essentially the same thing. So the agency window, this guy here, is what allows you to access PvE content to get you started with understanding how to play the game. And each of these has some sort of monetary reward attached to it. So for example, if I wanted to start with the exploration career path, and I click on it, I can see the details of that mission. How far away is the person? What are the rewards? So I'm going to get some ISK, I'm going to get some loyalty points, and there may be loot drops from enemy shipwrecks that I destroy. You know, the different mission types have different focuses. So I'm in the current system. I can undock and I can go mine here with the mining laser module that I've got, and I will gain a valuable reward in the form of ore that I can then refine or sell. There's also the industry window, so if I had some ore that I had mined and some minerals that I had refined and a blueprint, I can actually build items in the game. There are industry missions available that will teach you about this process. I also have a video up where I show an example of building up a stower using a blueprint and some materials that I had available. Then there's the corporation window, which is where you can look for a corporation to join. This is something that I'll get into in a later video. And fleet video, or the fleet window. The fleet window is where you will look for fleets that you're able to join and see any activities that you can engage in. Now, one thing to know about joining fleets is that often one of the conditions of being in a fleet is that friendly fire is something that they can do. And there are people out there who will bait new bros by setting up fleets for mining or other activities, invite you to come along, and then the moment you show up, they blow you up, and Concord will not respond because friendly fire has been set to yes for the fleet. So they can shoot you without repercussions because you consented. Then there's the star map. So this is the map for all of Eve, and you can see it's in 3 dimensions. It's kind of laid out over a very large area. And you can see right now that it's color-coded based on the regions. So Citadel, Heimatar, Derelict, Providence, Catch, Tenal. These are based on regions. You can change the color filtering, however, by choosing different layouts and choosing different colors. So one of the things I can look by, for example, is go into geography and statistics and look at security status. So now what we have is everything in green or light blue is high security space. Everything in orange is low security space, or security of 0.1 to 0.4. And everything red is what we call null sec space, or 0.0. And all of these red areas around the outside of the map, this is where all the big fights that happen in the news that you've read about take place. This is the lawless Wild West. This is the area where the people who make the laws are the people with the guns. And it's also, surprisingly, although many people disagree with this, the safest area of space in Eve, because most of it is empty. I don't know why people, new bros, people living in high sec haven't really caught on to this, but when you live out in these areas, the rules are really, really simple. If you don't know somebody, shoot them, or dock up so that they don't shoot you. Whereas in high sec, you don't know who you don't know, and it's full of people, and any one of them could be waiting to gank you. But out here in the red area, in the Wild West, it's pretty simple. If you don't know the person, they're an enemy. If they're not an enemy, make friends with them. If they don't behave like your friend or they shoot at you, well, then obviously they're the enemy and you should have shot them in the first place. So the rules are a lot more simple. And a lot of the time, this red area is empty. I mean, you can very, very easily, I'm saying this without joking, you can very, very easily go from where I live in Fountain, with my main character, all the way out to the Spire, taking the long way around the outside. And in the several hundred jumps it'll take you to get there, run into fewer than 1,000 people. Whereas you can't go from where I'm at now in Sistiver to Saint-Claison or to Domain over here by Amar without running into 1,000 people in like a dozen jumps. It's just, there's so many people in high sec. And you never know at any one of those gates that you're traversing whether or not you're going to get jumped. So, like I said, it's a little bit like living in New York City back in the 70s. You know, it's a little bit of a dangerous area, despite the fact that it's purportedly patrolled by the police and by, you know, organizations that make it safer to live there. Whereas out here in the Wild Wild West, you know, you might have the occasional sheriff who works for the local mayor, but really your protection's up to you. And there's a certain sort of security in that. And for the fact that a lot of space is empty out here, it makes it very, very easy to, increase your security just by playing smart, getting out of the way, hiding off at a safe spot, logging off safely in space, basically just avoiding anybody who might want to kill you. More on that later. So this has been a pretty good introduction so far. We're just going to finish off these first couple of steps of this introductory experience, and that is that we're going to recover the redeemable items that they've asked us for. Now there's two ways to get that. I can click down here in my notification windows, and then I can click new redeemable items, and it'll bring up the redeemable items menu, or I can click on my Neocom menu, go to inventory, go to redeem items, brings up the same window. And if I click redeem selected items, it's going to take these things out of my item holding and put them into my inventory for this station. And it's going to say, are you sure you want to drop them here at this moon in this inventory? And I'm going to say yes. I'm going to get a confirmation message saying that they've been deployed.
The items will now be in your inventory in...
Recruit, your accelerated training is sure going to begin with a vital mission. One of the Federation's advanced research outposts in the region has gone off the grid. This one, Recruit, is a black site. The research outpost is a facility where the Sisters of Eve have been working with us. As the rescuer of their people, the Sisters have asked that you be the one to carry out the investigation. You need to prepare for this journey, and Aura will help you get ready.
Captain, I am running different preparation scenarios. Research outposts like these often contain highly sensitive data troves that are securely encrypted. I believe it would be wise to upgrade your ship's capability with a data analyzer module. After reviewing options, it is my conclusion you should build one.
So you're going to build a data analyzer for your mission? Makes sense to me, but you'll need the necessary materials to construct it. The best way to get materials for this is to raid the stores of the local pirates. Those scum have abused the Federation's freedoms and are a blight on our democracy. Still, they're bound to be hoarding supplies, and that means they'll likely have what you need. Now, don't worry too much about how much you confiscate. Think of anything extra as a bonus. Remember, the Federation's laws are enacted for the good of the people. Those of us who defend those laws should be rightly rewarded.
We should prepare you for this battle against the pirates. To improve your capabilities in space, you might want to start training to operate better weapons. Your Empire has issued you a new weapon and the skill book required to operate it for this purpose. Skill training is vital for your progression in New Eden, and the skills you choose will prepare you for your path in the stars. You can view your current skills by opening the highlighted character sheet. To train a new skill, simply drag the skill book from your item hanger into your training queue. You should now drag the... For this upcoming battle, you should also equip a repair module. Both the new module and the required skill book have been gifted to you. To operate this repair module, you must first train to the required skill level. To train a new skill, simply... Due to your actions on the field, your commander wishes you to be part of the planned retaliation against the drifters. Your contribution will be improved if your training is completed in time for the operation. The mini skill injector item the commander has supplied will speed up your training process by gifting you free skill points. These skill points can be used to instantly bypass the training times required to complete the necessary skill levels.
So what they've done is given us a skill injector
Double-click
and some skill books. So what I'm going to do is, before I train up anything else for these high levels, or to higher levels, I'm going to take these small hybrid turret, I'm going to add on a little bit more training. So by activating a skill injector, I'm able to immediately inject a certain amount of control or knowledge of that skill.
Skill points. When you've done that,
And then what you can do is you can apply those skill points right away. And you can see that based on this white bar, it's going to get me all the way up to halfway through Rapid Firing 3. And by training these other skills, Surgical Strike increases damage of all weapon turrets by 3%. Rapid Firing increases 4% per level to weapon turret rate of fire, so it increases how quickly you shoot. Surgical Strike increases the damage. Trajectory Analysis increases accuracy and fall off. And the skill in the weapon itself is a 5% bonus in damage per level. So by adding these in and making sure that I have a little bit of an understanding of repair systems, I'm able to increase how effective I can be in operating in space. So I'm just going to build in those skills a little bit more so that I get all of Repair Systems 3, and then I'll start working on Trajectory Analysis 2 and 3. So I'm going to move that up a bit. There we go. And just apply those skill points. So by applying these skill points, I'm actually going to complete quite a few skills.
skill training completed. Congratulations, Captain. You have now trained the required skills to operate both your new weapon and repair modules. There is already something in that location.
Now, something you can see
To equip
is that the damage from this is only 3.9 damage per second. It does 3 thermal damage and 4 kinetic damage each time I fire a round. But the civilian Gatling gun doesn't take any ammunition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this to my ship hold so that it's in my inventory but not in my ship. And then I'm going to drag the new weapon into place. But you can see it doesn't do any damage, and the reason for that is because I need to add ammunition to it. Different types of ammunition will do different types of damage, and will do damage at different ranges. But you can see I've basically just quadrupled the amount of damage this gun does. And now does 15 thermal damage and 21 kinetic damage each time it shoots. So it's a 12.9 DPS. I still have a mining laser there. Now, because I'm not going to need the mining laser right away, I can increase the overall
Now
damage
you should
output
upgrade
by
your
having
ship
2
by
weapons.
fitting both the weapon and repair modules to it. To do this, right-click on each module in your item hanger and select
I'm also going to want to make
Next
sure
to
that I
active ship.
have an antimatter charges in my hold so that when my gun goes to cycle and it runs out of ammunition, that it can turn back on again and keep shooting. I also want to make sure that my repair module is actually turned on and getting power.
Before you venture back out into space, it would be wise to bring your ammunition with you, Captain. To do that, simply... Captain, your Corvette-class ship is now equipped with a repair module, an afterburner for speed, and an upgraded weapon system for dealing damage. I now calculate your combat odds against a moderate-sized pirate gang to be at an acceptable level. As the pirates are outlaws in New Eden, there are bounties on their heads. Captain, proceed to eliminate those pirates and earn those bounties.
So here we have the new gun,
I
and here we have
highlighted
my
the
civilian
undock
gun.
option for you. You should press this when you wish to leave the station and travel the stars. I have calculated the location of the nearest pirate outpost. You should now click on the location marker icon in the info panel.
So because I fit this new civilian armor repair, you can see now that I have a new module that's automatically set up in my quick bars here for my overview, or for my capacitor, but I can actually move these around to place them where I want them.
I had calculated your combat odds to be within an acceptable level of safety. However, I did not anticipate the presence of corrosive gases in this area. If you get caught, remember to activate your repair module when you take damage, and switch it off again when you have repaired successfully.
So you can see here I've piloted beneath the
Captain,
corrosive
there are
cloud.
a lot more pirates than I predicted. However, after upgrading your ship's weapon system, you can now deal more damage to your enemies. Let's show them what you've got. Remember your training. Approach, lock, orbit, shoot.
So what I've done is I've piloted beneath the corrosive gas so that I'm not going to take damage. I could just fly right through it and turn the repairer on, but I don't really want to mess with that. And I can tell with my tactical overlay on that this guy's actually approaching me. Now I am still taking damage from the corrosive gas because I'm passing within its periphery, but not a significant amount. Not yet, at least. And I'm going to turn my armor repair on now before I start taking armor damage, so that when the armor repair cycles apply, they actually land. And the difference between armor repair and shield repair is that armor repair lands at the end of the cycle. So once this white bar has gone all the way around the armor repair, the cycle applies its repair at the end and then begins again as it goes around. But I don't need it on anymore. As you can see that I'm actually recovering shield now. Shield regenerates passively unless you have a shield booster module, but now that I've cleared the damaging field, I'm not really too worried about it. And now that this ship is within my effective targeting range, I can now lock it up, and I can see that it's not yet in range of my primary weapon, which has a slightly longer range than my civilian gun. Now this ship is a Kestrel. It's a rocket boat. You can see it's got a single rocket turret on it. These guys can hold up to 3 rocket turrets. It's a Kaldari ship. He's begun shooting at me, so I'm going to turn on my armor repair. And now that he's within my effective range, I'm going to turn on both my guns. And boom, he's dead. 2 more now for me to attack. So I've got to reorient based on their new position. And because I had piloted down and beneath them, I can actually do that. Now, if I want to go back and I want to pick up this cargo, I can do that. And I can let those guys come to me. Metal scraps are actually pretty useful at the beginning because you have the ability to train the skill to refine them into materials you need.
Great job, Captain. I have highlighted the container you need to approach. You should loot its contents, and then return to station.
First thing I'm going to do is loot the containers of these ships that I just blew up. And then I'm going to go for the resource cache that Ura has told me to grab. And again, the scrap metal is not immediately super valuable, but it can be refined for minerals that are worth something. Also, there are people who will buy scrap metal from you and refine it. And here we have a stack of minerals.
Click on the location marker icon in the info panel to dock at your HQ.
And now we're going to warp back to HQ.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
That's the way you deal with pirate scum, recruit. I'm impressed by your diligence. Not only did you eliminate them all, but you also recovered materials that could be put to use in service of the Federation. You should get some advice from Aura on self-reliance and industry in New Eden. Building that analyzer from those materials will be the perfect test run.
Captain, industry jobs are the Capsuleer's way of manufacturing goods for himself. They can be a path to great wealth if you hone your industry skills. You should now have the materials to start production of the data analyzer unit for your upcoming reconnaissance mission to the research facility. I have calculated this to be important. To build this module, you'll first need a data analyzer blueprint, which you can buy from the market with your ISK. You should now right-click on your ship in the station and select Open Cargo Hold. You can use the right-click, select All, to highlight all the items in your cargo hold, and then click and drag them to the Inventory tab marked Item Hanger. The funds you received are awarded in ISK or interstellar credits. This is the main currency of New Eden and can be used for everything from buying. You should open the highlighted Market tab and use the search functionality to find Civilian Data Analyzer Blueprint.
So something I would like to point out is that you can actually reprocess scrap metal right away. but because you lack the skill, you only get a base commodity return of 50%, which still is not insignificant, but you're losing a lot of material because you don't have the scrap metal reprocessing skill. But still, it gives you a decent amount of titanium.
Once you have located the item, you should click on it to view.
So they want us to buy a civilian data analyzer blueprint.
From the list that says it's available in this station, then right-click.
And we can see that it has a value of 20,000 ISK. And in our wallet, we have 114,343 ISK. So we're going to buy one. Now, to use that blueprint, you're going to want to open the industry tab.
Civilian data analyzer blueprint. To the left.
Drag the blueprint in, and make sure that you've chosen the right item hanger or container that contains your material. We can see here that we have more than enough to create the one unit that we want to run. This blueprint is a blueprint original, so it has a very high number of runs, so I can actually produce an excess if I wanted and make more. But I'm going to save those materials for future jobs. If I try to make more runs than I have materials to build it, it will let me know. And we can see that this job is going to take just under 2 minutes to run.
You should collect all your rewards by checking your redeemable items under the Neocom menu and Inventory tab.
So we can see I've received a new reward. I can go ahead and open this skill package if I want.
Skill package. Open your character
And I can see I've
to
been
view
given
your
skill
current
books for
skills.
Galente Frigate and Galente Destroyer.
Your next step should be
To add these to my skill plan, I simply drag and drop them into the list. Now, I can't actually train Galente Destroyer until I have Galente Frigate trained to 3.
One way to do this is to make sure that your skill training queue is filled to capacity. In your training queue, right-click on your frigate skill and select Add Level 2 to queue. You will now automatically train Level 2 of your...
Shut up, Aura. And now that I've trained or added Galente Frigate 3 to the skill training, you can now see that Galente Destroyer has become open as an option that I can train. By default, you get Galente Industrial 1 and Mining Frigate 1. You're also probably going to want to train a couple levels of Mining Frigate as well. So now I have a total skill queue that will finish training in 1 day and 10 hours. Another skill that I'm going to want to train is high-speed maneuvering, which increases your micro-warp drive efficiency by reducing capacitor usage. Warp drive operation, which reduces the amount of capacitor needed in order to start warp. And evasive maneuvering, which increases your ship agility for each level that you train.
It is advisable to always have a skill training in your skill queue.
Now, if you want to remove any skills, you can.
It is advisable to always have a skill training in your skill queue. One way to observe how your overall training time increases as you add more skills to your skill.
Recruit. Your preparation might seem unrelenting, but you'll be thankful it is. I'm insisting on maximum readiness because I'm about to send you into a situation with almost no intel. The Sisters of Eve research outpost has gone completely dark, and
The module will now be in. Time to get that module fitted to your ship. Right-click the civilian data analyzer. Now, you are fully fitted for the research outpost. It's time to undock.
Now, unlike a lot of other games, you don't have to save anything in EVE Online in order to save your progress. You just make sure that you log off or quit when you're in a docked in a station or a citadel that you have access to dock in. And nothing that you've gained while you were docked up will have been destroyed. But if you leave your ship in space, that's not always guaranteed to be the case. And that concludes this video for today. I'll resume this gameplay in the near future with a second video, but I hope that being able to see me play my way through this has helped you to gain a better understanding or help you if you're stuck when you've been playing. If you're just getting started, continue to follow my videos online. Please like, share, subscribe if you have any questions. Post them in the comments below. Thanks very much. Bye.